before we start getting into lyrics, I mentioned that I wanted to talk about this. So let's talk about different instruments. Sometimes I think people view instruments like the guitar, for example, right? The guitar is a very complex, diverse instrument. It can be used in so many different ways. And sometimes, especially in like modern metal, I feel like the guitar doesn't get appreciated for like the rawness that it represents. It sometimes like I hear metal guitar tones and leads and they're so smooth and they're so like ironed out and perfect that it's just kind of it defeats the purpose of the electric guitar to begin with from like a sound standpoint, right? So in this case though, let's back up. The piano, let's start with the piano. It is an elegant, regal instrument. It is a old instrument, but it's large, it's expensive, it's very complex. It is typically associated with the higher end of society, whether it's, call that like intelligence, wealth, status, etc. It is this very, deeply like, elegant instrument, and that's what it's associated with. This kind of lends itself to the way it sounds, right? It is one of the few instruments where you can hit more octaves on the piano than you can almost any other instrument, which means that you can almost play every aspect of a song with just the piano. So you can have like, if you're doing like a piano, this is why you'll see piano covers of popular songs and they can cover the whole song. They can get like the guitars, they can get the drum beat in there if they do it right, the rhythms, they can get complex melodies, they can get the vocal lines and vocal harmonies. You can cover, the piano is such a big instrument with so much potential, and you can hit it with all 10 of your fingers, right? So you can be playing 10 different notes at any split second. And depending on how good you are, you can hit more notes on a piano faster than almost any other instrument, right? Like thousands and thousands of notes in a matter of seconds or minutes. So it's a very broad instrument. It captures so many different things, but even the sound, it's very, it's got this percussiveness to it because it is, theoretically a percussion instrument in a lot of ways. It just has pitch associated with it, but the keys of piano are very pleasing to the ear. They're very smooth. It's a very smooth sound. So yeah, anytime you hear a piano in a song, it adds an element of sophistication. Now let's talk about the acoustic guitar. The acoustic guitar is an extraordinarily different instrument from that. It's typically considered like, it's typically considered the commoner instrument. It's the instrument of the peasants, of the commoners, right? Even if you go back to like the lutes of medieval times, it is. I say this as a guitarist myself, by the way. I play guitar, not piano, so guitarists don't get mad at me. But the guitar is relatively small, much smaller than say like a cello or a piano or a drum kit or a harp. It's small. It's easy to transport. But like the piano, it also has a lot of diversity to it as well. You can play so many different notes and sounds, but you are limited by 6 strings. Unlike the piano, where you could hypothetically hit every single note on it at the same time, the guitar only has 6 strings. But with that said, you also have on the guitar, your fingers are actually touching the strings. Your fingers are the only thing that generate the sound. Whereas the piano kind of works as a contraption with like, again, this percussive thing in the back. Like this is why pianos are so big, right? Is because there is this percussive, I don't know what it's called, like a knocker that hits the string and causes it to vibrate. So you aren't actually touching the string, you're touching the keys. Whereas the guitar, your fingers are on the strings. So every sound that you hear from the guitar is real and personal and unique to the player. This is where, you'll hear guitarists say that the tone is in your fingers, not the amp. And there's a lot of truth to that. You could give the same exact rig, guitar, amp, pedals, and effects to 10 different guitarists and it'll sound like 10 different guitarists, right? You wouldn't even be able to identify that it's the same rig because of how different some of these guitarists sound. So yeah, there is this personal, intimate element to the guitar, but there's also, because of, again, the way that the guitar sounds, the open strings, the wood, it has this element of energy and rebellion, something that gets expanded upon infinitely more by, or exponentially more by, the electric guitar, which is typically considered like the antithesis of high society, right? It's maybe not anymore these days, but especially when the electric guitar was first coming out, it was like, go watch like Back to the Future, and when he plays some ripping, shredding guitar solo, all of the people in the 50s are like, oh, what is this? I'm aghast. They were aghast with, you've offended their ears and their sensibilities with that noise, right? And so the guitar is this, energetic, personal, lively instrument of the common folk, as opposed to a piano, which, you can't just take a piano and move it around and take it somewhere. Like it doesn't work like that. The piano is typically a static instrument that stays in one place. So you'll have a piano in a ballroom that stays there constantly. And that's that's the setting of it. So yeah, with this explanation of like these two instruments play different roles in a song and in music. Not to say that, I'm giving just sort of the baseline example of it, but these instruments can absolutely be used in more diverse ways, right? There's very elegant guitar that can be played, and there's very, raunchy, in your face piano that can be played, right? But in general, the sound and the tone of these instruments are very different from each other. So yeah, with that said, in this song, we have an intro with the piano, which is perfect because the intro of this song is meant to be sophisticated, nostalgic, almost dreamlike or fantasy-like, right? It's very a lot of symbolism. It's setting things up. It's setting this kind of fairy tale that he's about to tell up. But then now that we're starting to get into the song, he brings things down to earth a little bit with the guitar, with the first chorus, which in a lot of ways, I don't want to spoil the end, but like this is a big element of the song is, that in the interpersonal relationships, right? Being able to connect with the people around you. I don't want to say too much else because I have a whole end theme, but yeah, this idea that like really, so let's go back a little bit and let's talk about the lyrics. Because I think that will help explain how the guitar lends itself to this. So let's play this again. Let's just start at the first lyrical line.